My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, AKA the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery.
Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I'm your host. As always, thank you for joining us here. We're happy to be here with you. I'm really looking forward to today's show. The beautiful Miss Jessie's here with us.
Hello.
And we have a really exciting guest here for you today. And so I know you guys just watched the intro, but for anyone that does not know, Exit Team takes people with real life experiences, with pain, suffering, addiction, trauma, people that have resources. We offer education and hope, and the goal and the idea is that we bring it right into your living room. So everyone that comes on this show has some type of experiences with the topics that I had just said. So we're gonna dive right into it today. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Who are you?
My name is Lisette Carrasquillo. Lisette Maria Guadalupe Carrasquillo, technically.
Okay, all right. Okay, sounds good. Right?
Most people know me on Facebook as Lisette Sobriety or Sober Lisette, so.
Okay, all right, cool. And what brings you to the show today?
Just here to spread the goodness and talk recovery with you ladies. I'm so excited to be here, like really excited.
I was so excited when Jessie sent me your information. I was like, how have I never thought of this? This is the most perfect guest ever.
We don't even know each other that well, you know.
Oh, really?
We've only met a couple of times, and we met one time, and then we're connected on Facebook. So like you can tell when someone's recovering loudly and when someone has, you know, a strong recovery game, you know. And then I had invited her on the show, and she said yes. And then we saw each other at my home group at a mutual meeting.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like divine intervention or whatever.
Yeah,
so it was pretty cool. Yeah.
So Lisette, tell me like a little bit about yourself. So just like a little bit for you of like what it was like. So like what qualifies you, what brings you to recovery? Because you do recover loudly. You have like a lot of followers. I like love all these posts, and I look up and I'm like, of course it's Lisette. Of course it's Lisette.
I know.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hold on.
There's like 6 people, I swear.
Before you go, can you tell the audience how they can follow you on Facebook? One more time.
Yeah, you can just follow me. My Facebook name is Lisette Sobriety, Sobrenity.
All right. Cool. They should follow you.
She got some good memes and some good
Yeah,
hope,
it's all about the dank memes.
Exactly.
But yeah, you know, I try to keep my social media really inspirational and funny, and you know, the shits and giggles is the hashtag I like to use. But just about recovery. I didn't even have social media before I got sober, which is July 12th, 2016. I was off of Facebook. I was taking a hiatus because I was just using it in a toxic way. You know, being the good recovered person that I am, I could almost use anything toxically, and Facebook is no exception, you know?
Right.
So I was off of it for like, I think 3 or 4 years, and I got back into it because when I first came around, everybody was telling me about these conferences and how I needed to be on this committee and this funny page, so I started it up again. The first year was Sober Lisette. And I mean, I look back at some of those posts now and I'm just like,
Oh my God, I can't even look back at my Facebook.
What was I going through? I was eating all the Haagen-Dazs, yeah.
Facebook
Or
memories
just
are my favorite.
some of the things that like I've said on Facebook, or
Right.
the things that I've posted, like especially during active addiction and stuff. It's just like pretty embarrassing.
Active addiction, like the beginning of recovery too, like bad
that's
crap,
probably worse,
crazy,
yeah.
talking about like, I don't even know. It's just, I was on some stuff, you know, was not thinking clearly, but I'm so glad that I rode the wave and I just kept coming.
It's so funny that like that's a thing, because like that was me. I was like, everyone needs to know that I found recovery, and that
Exactly.
yeah.
There's like 4,000 selfies of me like
No idea what the anonymity was. I couldn't even spell anonymity. It was like anonymity.
Couldn't say it for sure.
Yeah, I learned a lot of things the hard way, but thank goodness it was in a loving, loving way. You know, because I didn't have that before. You know, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm sure you might be able to hear the accent, but it was just like toxic, you know, and I came from like a cycle of abuse, you know, so it was like my dad did things to my mom did things to me, and I like kicked my sister, and my sister would kick the cat. And at the time in Brooklyn, there was a lot of, you know, gang activity on top of it, you know, so I started drinking really early. I started drinking when I was 10. I had my first addiction experience when I was only 11, and it wasn't even with drugs, it was with candy, it was with sugar. And I abused all that too in year 1. But anyways, it just, I didn't have that type of fellowship, that type of loving and positive reinforcement. Everything was negatively reinforcing. You know, I'm Puerto Rican and Italian, so the belts, you know, the whip, whatever you could get is normal. You know, these things were normal. But at the end of the day, the resiliency that like I got out of it is indescribable, you know, and I really feel like I survived some amazing things, and it just really made me who I am. So I don't regret a minute of it, you know? But that's why I believe there's healing in laughter. And I try to post those funny things, and I try to keep it inspirational, because if you can't laugh at the darkest parts of myself, at least if I can't laugh at the darkest parts of myself, you know, it's like, you know, who am I? Have I really healed from it?
Right.
You know? It's just another way to heal, so.
How'd you end up in New Hampshire?
How'd I end up in New Hampshire? Well, I went from Brooklyn, New York to Lawrence, Massachusetts. My family separated, and I lived in Lawrence for 11 years, and that's pretty much where a lot of my adolescent debauchery started happening. I moved from Lawrence, Massachusetts, because I promised myself I would not live in Lawrence longer than I lived in Brooklyn. Like, I mean, resentment could have been my middle name. And I moved from there to Virginia, to Mass for a little while, and then landed in New Hampshire. So, and I just kept going north and north and north. You know, it's kind of ironic that I've been called back to Massachusetts again recently, and I'm a mass hole once again. So yeah, it's been, I can't even explain it. I move a lot. You know, and I think that's part of the surviving thing. You know, I'm used to surviving, so I moved a lot of places. I never really had roots. I always had wings, you know, fight or flight. So moving was normal to me. It's nice to have actually a home and a community that loves me now. It's completely different. So, roots. I got roots.
I like that though, how you said that I don't have roots, I have wings. That's really a sweet way to look at it, you know?
Yeah, well, I used to hear people say you can't have roots and wings, you know, growing up. So it was like, all right, well, if you stay too long, you die. So I did what I had to do to keep moving. You know, but you can't escape yourself. I took myself everywhere I went, and I ruined every opportunity that I had. I mean, when I was in high school, I got a scholarship to Bridgewater State, and I pretty much discovered kegs and eggs, and I failed immediately in a year, my first year. And when I moved to Virginia, you know, I tried different relationships. I tried different types of therapies, but I just brought myself everywhere I went, and my delusion was so real in my addiction. Like, I honestly believed that was the truth. I really believed it. You know, they say that whole how thing, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Like, my honesty was really sick. You know, it took a lot of humility to break down those barriers, to reprogram the way that I thought, to deconstruct that ego, to challenge my ideas.
Yeah, you hear like the word ego, and I think a lot of people's perception is like ego is, oh, you think you're better than. But like for me, ego shows up as I'm not good enough. I'm less than. Poor me. It's so funny that you brought that up, because on the way here, I was like thinking about this blog that I want to write. I always come up with these blog ideas and I never write them. But I was thinking about what if I believed my thoughts and that's all I could be? You know? Because every goal that I've ever set for myself, the universe has given me so much more. And then once I get there and I'm like, okay, like this is it, and then it's like, here you go, here's even more. And like, you know, like my life is pretty good. And it's just like, I look around sometimes and I'm like, I can't even believe this, because I came from poverty. I came from abuse. I came from neglect. I came from a long history of poverty, abuse, neglect. And I never realized that I could be more than that cycle. You know, and the most beautiful thing I think about myself, finding my way out of it and breaking that cycle, is that family members are following my footsteps. And it's like I'm healing my pain, but by doing that, like I'm healing like lineages of pain.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We're breaking the cycle. We're breaking the chain. I love that. I love that so much. And I'm all about the women empowerment. You know, there's that, I forget what proverb.
Women empower women.
Right, right. I forget what proverb it is, but talking about like, you know, if you educate a woman, you educate a village, you educate a generation.
Yeah.
You know, and breaking those toxic cycles of abuse that have been passed down from generations, stopping and saying, you know what, this isn't normal. I'm the first person in my family to say I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict, and I'm dual diagnosed. So I also deal with mental health issues. I got these 2 dogs on a leash that I keep in constant check, which I can do today. But being the first person to say that, it's opened the doors for like cousins to reach out to me, you know, for other women who might not have known a different path. And it's tough because when we talk about abuse, you know, sexual abuse, and it's a hard topic, I feel like, for women to get by. You know, oh, well, why didn't you leave him sooner? Things like that. You know, I've lost some significant things in my life. Like I lost a child because of abuse, and I really want to share these things, not to be like, oh, poor her, you know, well, she grew up in gangs and she grew up in Brooklyn and she was beaten and she lost this child. I don't want to share those things because it's like, poor me. I want to share them because I want people to know there is nothing we cannot come out of. You know, there is a message of hope out there. There is a solution. And that's what I'm trying to feed these people. And if we have to laugh at the ugliest parts of ourselves to get that little crack of light to come out of us, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
It's so funny that you said that, because I was thinking about this on the way over, and like I post a lot on Facebook and stuff, and that's not because I think I'm so great. It's because I want somebody else out there to know that I am living proof that you can burn your life to the ground and still rise from the ashes, you know? And so like it gives someone hope that wherever they're at, they can come out of it.
Right,
you
and
know?
also how we do it. You know, I work a very thorough program of a 12-step recovery, but I'm also a recovery coach, so I love all types of models, like, you know, 3 principles, smart recovery. It doesn't matter what you're into. If you're trying to get recovered, go for it.
I don't even care what you're trying to do. I love you. Wherever you're at, it's cool. Like, you know, I love you. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter.
We need that positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
And I'm just all about that life, you know, really trying to live it.
I can't imagine like if somebody, when I was in active addiction or whatever, you know what I mean, said like, I love you and it's okay to be the way you are.
Cringed.
You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, you're weird. Get away.
yeah, I know, but like having somebody support you
Right.
and say that like, this is where you're at and you're okay. And like, it doesn't make you bad and it doesn't define you.
Right.
And, you know, and knowing those things, being able to like, give that to somebody else. It's pretty cool.
Hearing that I wasn't a bad person, that I was a sick person was life-changing for me. Learning about the disease of alcoholism and addiction was a life-changing thing for me, because this isn't a moral issue. You know what I mean? I am a sick woman, but there is a solution. And you follow the solution and you get more than what you could promise yourself.
So there were several times throughout my life, because I was in active addiction from the age of 9 to the age of 32. So and even before I picked up at the age of 9, my whole life, for my earliest memory, was suffering. And so when I was 32 years old, the way that a disease model was broken down for me in a different way that it had ever been, no one in this world hated me more than I hated myself. No one in this world judged me more than I judged myself. No one in this world carried more shame, more stigma for like the loser, homeless, junkie, drug addict, because that's how I felt about myself, than me. And when someone set me down, and in that moment, for some reason, and showed me the disease model and the way that they showed it to me, I literally just cried and cried and cried because I was like, oh, it's okay. You're actually not those things, you know? But for some reason, until that very moment, I was never able to receive that message.
It's difficult. There's a lot of conflicting messages out there in general. I mean, even there's even toxic messages about like self-love, right? Toxic people, cut these toxic people off. It's toxic behaviors. You know, there are no toxic people in this world. We all have toxic behaviors.
And behaviors are learned.
Right, that we're learning to reprogram.
Yep.
You know, so I really, the words we say are so important.
I see people all the time. They like make like really shameful posts, like bashing, like people sitting on their spiritual hilltop, and I'm just kind of like, I mean, like whatever you have to do to like find your release, but you're kind of doing like what you're telling people not to do. You know? Like, you're literally judging and shaming people for like acting to be this, but like what you're doing is like an unhealthy coping mechanism. So,
right. And I get it. I was totally that person. When I first found spirituality and I decided, screw all the religions and I'm going to be spiritual, I got on my arrogant soapbox and I shouted from the rooftops, you didn't read The Secret, so you don't know about this, and you don't know about the man that's holding us down, and you were sheep and you're asleep. And oh my goodness, I was a maniac. Getting to that place of balance, you know, knowing that everything, I love the yin and the yang, yeah, there's a little bit of dark in the light, a little bit of light in the dark.
Yes.
Everything needs everything else.
And no one is right and no one is wrong.
I know.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like whatever, yeah. All right, sure, yeah, that, I don't know.
Right, live and let live. That works for you, cool, bro, cool.
I literally don't know. It might work for me too. I have no idea.
And it's interesting too, because like, it's kind of freeing or like empowering to know that like when I have a disagreement with somebody or I find someone that I clash with, you know, I know today that's not a reflection of my worth, you know, and like that they a lot of the time are struggling with something as well, or you know they're a sick person too, and you know we're all in progress. And
or sometimes, you know what I notice is I will see something in someone and it'll make me cringe, or like I don't like, and then after a period of time of reflecting, I'm like, oh, that's because I don't like that about me.
It's because it's missing in me,
right? Or it's something that needs to be healed in me.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, that is so true. What we see in others is a reflection of self. I absolutely believe that, and it's taken some outside work to get there too, because I couldn't even identify certain emotions in the beginning. Everything was just angry for me. You know, I didn't know, oh, well, this is a sad feeling. Oh, well, this is grief. Oh, this is jealousy. Like I didn't know those other things.
Right.
You know, so I feel like that's like kind of the advantage of getting a chance to, you know, have a therapist and be dual diagnosis, is to be able to learn other techniques, you know, like CBT, DBT, mindfulness, you know, things outside of a recovery program. I love me some meditation goodness, but I never would have gotten there if I didn't learn how to just focus on doing my dishes or smoking one cigarette at a time. And now I don't even smoke cigarettes.
Right.
So, you know.
CBT and DBT were like game changers for me, you know, and the 3 principles, you know, and then I kind of got those things because I refused to do 12-step, you know, and then I was finally at a place where like I was ready to honestly try 12-step, and having those other tools really was helpful, and it still is helpful, you know. And like for me, I have to still see my therapist weekly, you know. I have to continue to do that work. Otherwise I just don't, I have trouble staying right sized. Either it's I'm bigger than or I'm less than, you know. And that ego thing for me took me so long to figure out that it goes both ways, you know. And feeling like I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy and everything's all about, you know, me, whether it's I'm good or bad, is ego, you know.
Because we're all perfect and we're all ready to be, whether we like it or not.
We're all farting rainbows.
But we really are all right where we need to be. And like our mind perceives it to like, well, I need this or I need that, or it's like, no, I just like need to chill and just love people.
Right. Feel the process, feel the emotions, learn to identify them. For me, learning to identify them was a huge step. And, you know, then just riding the wave, right? Because like you said, it's not about you. If anything, it's that drop in the water. I always come back to this, that ripples out, you know, and that's how waves are created. And that's how things get destroyed and rebuilt again. It's I love me some nature.
I wish I could just pause all the time and like not react and have that skill. You know, I think it comes with time, right?
Yeah, practice, practice.
Or it's like I can like sit there very like straight faced and be like, okay, and like not like say to you, but in my head I'm like, you're an idiot.
I'm gonna cut you.
And then I have to go home and be like, wow, well, like why were you so bothered by that? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. The thoughts inside of my head, they're a whole whirlwind of different.
I just still don't have a filter. Like, it's problematic.
I do. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing though, because a lot of times I don't honor my truth.
Okay.
I'll hold back,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Because I'll be like, working the audience, you know what I mean? And then I'll go home and be like, probably should have said that.
Right.
But did you go to treatment?
I didn't actually technically go through treatment. I got inpatient and hospitalized at a psychiatric unit, and I did detox the good old-fashioned way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweating and screaming in a psychiatric
Yeah,
unit.
been there.
Okay.
After that, I found the halls immediately of a 12-step program, and I got immersed. Like I joined the New Hampshire State Conference for Young People, and it was like this huge paradigm shift. You know, I could have fun.
Yeah.
I have a life still.
Did you like go to sober living? Like
I did not.
You just had a place to live and found
I had to
support.
take a leave of absence. I've always had a career. By career, I'm a medical biller and coder. I went to school for this. That's my bread and butter. I've been doing it for 18 years. So I had to follow up with FMLA.
Yeah.
And I had to go through those processes.
Yep.
Which, you know, we don't really talk a lot, but it's paperwork and it's hard to do when you're in recovery. I had to go through partial hospitalization program. Then I did intensive outpatient program.
So you
That's
did like a
treatment.
continuous
That's
treatment.
treatment. PHP
Okay.
and
Okay, yes.
IOP.
Then yes.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like a detox facility. My bad.
Well, I mean, you thought you meant like inpatient.
Yeah.
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 But yeah. No, that's
I was
still treatment.
inpatient just in the psychiatric ward, and then I did all those other things, and I was blessed to have decent insurance.
Yeah.
You know? But quite frankly, like, it was a lot of it was in Massachusetts, you know? I want to see more happen in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I want to see more legislative practices go through because we need more for mental health.
You're looking at
We
your
need
girl
more.
over there.
We need more for substance abuse, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, just you get out of one program and then that's it in New Hampshire. I had to go to like all the way to Boston to get treatment sometimes. You know, I had to go to McLean to find
I've
good
been
treatment
there.
there.
That's a
Yeah,
good
they have a
place.
great women's
Yeah.
trauma program.
Yeah.
Shout out to McLean.
Yeah.
And Anna Jakes. I'm like
you
alumni
gotta
there.
have the insurance for it, though.
Right, exactly. And even
It's also
still,
really hard to get into the women's trauma program at McLean's. I've
It
tried
is.
to help some people there, and it was I didn't have enough time to work with them because the waiting list was so extensive, which I guess is more of a reflection of how limited resources are that everyone
Right.
has to go to.
Right, there's just
Yeah.
not enough, and there's not enough even like beds for women. There's always a
Yeah.
ratio of more beds for men than women.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
Not saying that this disease cares if you're a man or a woman. It does not. But you know, we need to even the playing field. We really do. We have a lot of work to do.
Right.
I feel like, and I get to work with the Medicaid population. I'm an appeals coordinator, so my whole role is to advocate for the patients. Every day I go into work and I'm fighting an appeal to make sure somebody gets their Suboxone, you know, or something like that. Like
That's
this
awesome.
This
Yeah.
is like a daily thing, and it's just too common. It's too common, you know. But you know, little drops in the water, right, making the ripples.
Right. Right.
I think society's come a long way though.
Yeah.
Over like the last I know since I've gotten sober.
Yeah, I
it's
was
come
in the
really
last
far.
like 3
I
3
mean,
years,
like,
you know? Yeah.
Let's not even that long ago, there was Farnham Center in New Hampshire where you could go to detox.
Phoenix House.
Farnham
Phoenix,
and
yeah.
Phoenix. Yeah, like that was it for
Right.
New Hampshire Medicaid. At least,
Yeah.
you know, they're opening up more resources. We've got we have respites now,
Yeah.
which are great. I mean, we have like hub and spokes. We've got
I remember when I was trying to get, find recovery and during my active addiction, and I was on state Medicaid, and it was like, oh, you're addicted to heroin? We don't accept you to detox for that because it's not life or death.
yes. I remember
And I'm
that
like,
too.
what do you mean all these people are dying because,
yeah.
they're going back out and the fentanyl is killing them? They said it's not life or death. So you need to, if you have benzos in your system and you are using heroin and benzos, then you are at risk for seizures. So then you can get admitted into a detox. So then, you're like, okay, so then you end up using more drugs than you need to try to get better. But that's what they said. It's not life or death. You can detox at home. I literally remember the phone call, and now I mean it's a little bit different.
I think the best we had it was like around 2016 where like the state insurances, like you could get Blue Cross Blue Shield and like Cigna policies, and people could go to whatever treatment centers were in network with those policies.
Yeah, it's not the case anymore.
Yeah, and you're right, it's not the case anymore. The face of addiction has changed. Therefore, more resources, more policies, more programs are coming into play, and I am very grateful for that. But this has been happening forever and a day. The war against drugs didn't start 3 years ago. For my particular population, the Hispanic and the Black community, this has been a tale as old as time.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's a whole nother basket of worms, and I'm not going to get into today. But
Second show.
Yeah, seriously.
Lisette gets her own show.
It's just good though to see change, and it's good to be able to recover out loud, because I want to change the way people talk about recovery. I want to change the way people think in our heads. You know what I mean? Like even myself, I'm still trying to replace words with other words to be a more positive influence.
That's one of the trainings that I do with the Recovery Friendly Workplace is stigma and safe language training. We teach like the person first language, like a person in long-term recovery or a person with a substance use disorder versus saying, addict or alcoholic, and so you to be.
Yeah, I love to say that I'm a recovered alcoholic and addict. That's my bread and butter. It might ruffle some feathers in some halls, but
I love it when it ruffles feathers. I'm like, I'm Jasmine and I'm a drug addict.
Well,
I love
and it's different when you're talking about yourself.
Yeah.
You can talk about yourself however you want.
I use it in a very empowering way. I came from the streets with nothing and had to like fight for what I had, and like now I'm like a dignified and like classy woman, and like
it's different when you like are reading an article in the paper or the news is speaking and they're stigmatizing people that are experiencing addiction.
We have a long way to go. But the way I feel about it is because I can get caught up in all of that stuff out there and what needs to be changed. I just really try to come back to the one person I can help. And if a meme does that, cool. Because memes have brought people into my inbox, saying, hey, I need to know more, or, how did you do it? And like I said earlier, I mailed a big book to a friend just a week ago.
Yeah.
It's such a blessing. Yeah. It's such a blessing.
Do you want to say anything to everybody before you head out?
No, if you have any questions, just reach out. Lisette Sobriety. Please keep coming, because you are so, so worth it. And if no one told you today, I love you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening and coming tonight. And there is hope, and reach out. And we'll see you next time.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, AKA the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua. Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. Thank you for joining us. As every week, Exit Team is a show that brings people of real-life sufferings with addiction, trauma. We bring them on the show to share their experiences with you. We also bring people on the show who have resources available to offer education, prevention, and of course, hope. As always, I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Jessie.
Hello.
And we have a really exciting show for today, and I'm really excited for it because we have Chuckie Rosa here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here.
Excited to be here.
I have known of Chuckie for quite a few years now, so I have been trying to find my way to recovery for quite some time before I made my way to recovery. And Chuckie was someone that people used to always tell me to reach out to. He has this foundation that can help you get into sober living. So long before I ever met you, I had heard of you, and so people were always telling me to reach out to you. So it's really cool to have you here tonight because I know that you touch a lot of lives. And also, I met you, I don't even think you remember this, and I just remembered this. I actually met you at a huge fundraiser back in 2016, and you gave me dog tags.
Oh my.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just remembered that right now.
All right.
So, you're Jessie's guest. Take it away, Jessie.
So, obviously Chuckie does a lot for the community. And how I know Chuckie is when I was on drug court.
You were what?
What? So I was on drug court and I had to do lots of community service, believe it or not. And I always did it with Chuckie. And we kind of just had an instant, connection, and we've kept in touch. He was a great role model to me.
Thank you.
Are you the reason she's the way she is?
No. I was pretty tough on her. She's done really well. I'm really proud of her, actually. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
But yeah, we've kept in touch, and it's been an inspiration. So here we are.
Well, thank
Chuckie,
you.
you want to tell us a little bit about how
Sure.
you got into your foundation?
Sure.
What brought you into what you
Sure,
do?
Yeah. Well, I ran a wire factory for most of my life, for almost 27 years. I'm the father of 6. I only have 4 children now because I lost my 2 oldest sons, Dominic and Vincent, to accidental drug overdoses. I almost lost a 3rd son out of 6, but he's been clean and sober for over 10 years now. He, if anybody follows the fights, he's a fighter as well. He is in the UFC. And he's doing well, and I'm just saying that because it just gives people some hope. He was going down that same path as my other 2 sons, but he found his recovery. He had to relocate, and that maybe we could talk about that. That's what worked for him. Couldn't seem to manage it around here. But I left my job after 27 years. I moved up to New Hampshire with my...
Where are you from, Chuckie?
I lived in Arlington. I brought my kids up mostly in Wilmington and Peabody, Mass. I left them in Peabody and moved up to Seabrook with Charles to try to get him through high school. And I thought there'd be less drugs and alcohol up here, but he told me after 2 days that pretty much it was the same here. Because we were uneducated. My kids were uneducated, young adults, and I was an uneducated parent. I thought it was a phase they was going through that was going to pass. The older 2, Dominic and Vincent, and never did. And when Charles was getting into it, I was baffled that, you just buried your 2 heroes. What? I didn't know. I really didn't know. I said, but he went from being halfway down the pole. He's the boss when I'm not around, and he didn't know how to handle it, and that whole self-medicating thing, and But he graduated high school, and after several failed attempts in recovery and a little bit of jail time, he found recovery in Florida. And I was asked to speak at a school probably 15 years ago at the Seabrook Middle School, I think it was, and one of the teachers knew me and asked if I would be willing to tell the students what happened with my boys, and I'm like, I never did any public speaking, and I still don't, you know. But I said I was actually, I don't let much bother me, but I was actually nervous about it. I'm like, geez, what am I going to say? And but it kind of turned into, she had a friend at Timberlane High School, and I've been there for about a dozen years. I speak to the freshman class. In fact, I'm going there next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so I do, it's not a lecture, it's basically questions and answers. We show a little video, I talk for a few minutes to spur some questions, and I tell them that nobody's gonna get anything out of this unless you ask questions. I'm not a licensed clinician, I'm not gonna try to scare you into making good choices. I'm here to try to help you on your journey. And I basically tell them, you know, I'm here as much for myself as I am for you, and so forth and so on. And I tell them, you know, if you haven't started, don't. And if you have, you get it together before it's too late, because you will have a problem with it someday. It may not, you might not end up on the other side of the graph like my boys. They paid the ultimate price, but might be something as minor as saying something hurtful to somebody that you didn't mean to at a get-together or something. So we talk very candidly about that. And after several presentations, you know, they say no matter how strong your message is, it wears off. And I said, what can I do to make them remember? So I came up with an idea. I gave them a dog tag, and it's a picture of a fighter, and it says "Help knock out substance abuse." And then I got some that I had in this made in this shape of the state of New Hampshire that say, instead of live free or die, they say live clean or die. And if the students, young adults, want to make a pledge to make good choices, they line up. I don't just put them in a bin. I give them an opportunity to take one. They got to look at me and tell me they're going to make good choices. And I see people pretty much every day. I actually saw a cop last night at the election, the voting thing, from Peabody. He says, "You came to my school 6 years ago, and I still have your dog." You know, yeah, it happens a lot. And I'm just saying that it's, you know, I tell them that don't take one if you're not gonna honor it. I said I respect you more if you say, "Hey, you know what, I'm not ready," or something. But I'd like to think, I hope that it's made an impact. We've given away close to 100,000 of those. So that's the presentations, and then, like Jesse said, I supervise community service for people that need hours. Try to be a good mentor. I'm not always. I'm a little bit of a hothead sometimes. But you know, I think Jesse, when
Is it true?
It's so true.
Yeah.
But you know what though?
Sometimes you need it.
It's amazing because you know you see that like people aren't perfect, and you don't have to live some perfect existence to be in recovery. You know what I mean? That like you're still gonna have problems, and you're still gonna get angry, and you not deal with things the right way. And Chuckie's just real, and that's what's cool about him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we do like we have a small industrial kitchen. We do cooking for like the community table. We feed people that can't get a meal. We you know, so we teach them how to shop and to
Do
cook.
a lot.
Yeah,
I had no
he
idea
does
you did all
he does
this.
a lot.
Well, it's just, you know, we do that, and sometimes we'll maybe do a self-defense class. I'm certified to teach self-defense, so it's kind of like a self-help thing. And the third thing I do is we scholarship people that if they do a program, like a 28-day program, and they don't want to go back to the same toxic environment, if they've exhausted all their resources and they want to get into sober living where they're fighting the same fight everybody else is, they have to do an interview and meet some criteria. There's a protocol, and if they do, we help fund them into getting into. We have a lot of deals with sober living houses in the state of New Hampshire, and you know, everybody's worth 150 or 200 bucks, and people say, well, what does that pay for? I said, it doesn't pay for anything. It pays for you to it gets them in the door, then the journey becomes theirs, and but some pretty powerful stuff happens. We spent like $60-something thousand last year on scholarships, but you know, we get letters like pretty much every day that, you know, like girls get their kids back. They'll say, thanks for the scholarship. You know, I lost my kids after I overdosed 3 times. The state took my kids, but I just got I've been in the butterfly house for this many months. The state gave me my kids back. I got 9 months sobriety. I got God back in my life. And so it's the 200 bucks, you know, I mean, everybody's worth more than that. It's $2 million as far as that goes. But instead of keeping them locked up for 35 grand a year, or they end up, like I said, in the same toxic environment, if we think they're serious and they've done the work and their case manager gives us the blessing that they're doing the right thing, and I ask them some pretty pointed personal questions, because sometimes they want to go to an easy place, and we think that if they've only been able to put together a couple of weeks and they've been using for 15 years and they want to go to kind of a loose place, I will say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not trying to manage their accountability, I mean their recovery, but I'm not going to fund something that I think is going to fail. So then they'll find another place that's a little bit more structured, there's more accountability, and we try to get them on their way. So those are some of the things
He also does, you do a support group?
Oh yeah, parent support group, the third Thursday. Been doing that for about a dozen years, yeah.
He just
Where do you do it?
It's at the Church of Christ in Seabrook, the third Thursday of every month at 6 o'clock, and you know,
Do you have a website with everything you do on it or anything like that?
yeah, it's chuckiesfight.com. It's just mostly, I think it's.
Does it talk about when your support group is?
I don't know if it's even on there.
We should
honestly.
get that on
Yeah,
there.
Probably I should. Yeah, yeah.
I'm just thinking because I deal with a lot of parents. It would be good for
Yeah,
them.
third Thursday of the month at the Church of Christ, and it's very open. We have a protocol for you know, everybody shares, and then you get the chance to tell the person what worked for you and what didn't, and not what your methodology is to why, because we'd be there for 3 days. Mm-hmm. But if you want further information at the end of the meeting, you can say, hey, why did you say that I should turn my son in? You know, that's the last thing I would think of doing. There's a lot goes on there, and I'm telling you, it's not like TV, there's some real, every time you think you've seen it all or heard it all, there's some real situations, you know, going on that are, I'm not fond of the saying you can't even make this crap up, but there's some really, you know, things you say, geez, you know, if you tell them this could happen, but if you don't, this is what's going to happen, you know what I'm saying? And but it's very open group, and it's helped a lot of people. Sometimes there's a few people there, sometimes there's a dozen, but everybody gets a chance to share, and it's good. It's worked out well for a lot of people. It's helped a lot of people.
We actually have a question from a viewer. So Jody says, losing one child can be devastating. What advice can you give a parent that has lost more than one to addiction?
I don't really have a quality answer other than I'm probably not supposed to bring religion into it too much, but I'm going to just say, you know, you got to keep your faith, because and I know it's cliche-ish, but you got to put one foot in front of the other every day. And you know, I'm a fighter, but we all are in one way or another. We're all physically and or mentally tough and stubborn, and you have to use that stubbornness and toughness as a asset instead of a liability. And what I'm saying is, you know, it's the fighter saying step up or step aside. You know, step up because, you know, you're here because God wants you here and needs you here. And everybody out there has somebody that looks up to them and that loves them, and you really need to, I shouldn't say need to, it sounds like an order, encourage the person that lost more than one to put one foot in front of the other and try to turn something like that into, you know, something as positive as it can be. But it's a fist fight every day, you know, but it's a fist fight that you can win. It's the same thing, I believe, with the whole addiction. You know, there's a lot of different views on how to manage it and the disease model. I understand it all, but I believe at the end of the day, and this is what when I talk to the students, is that at the end of the day, it's a choice you make, and it's something. No matter how your day went, you can at least say, hey, you know what? I didn't pop any pills today. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I live about 100 yards from a liquor store, and I go by it about a half a dozen times a day at least. So it's either on my left or my right a dozen times. And you know what? You know what I'm not doing today, Jasmine and Jesse? I'm not stopping at that effing store. It's not going to happen. But it's a choice. And what does it have to do with losing 2 kids? You can crawl under the covers. And I mean, there's a lady up the street that lost her son, and she strung herself up. She couldn't handle it. It's not that easy, but you just got to try to be strong and realize that there are people out there that need you, and you're here for a reason. Because when I lost my second son, I almost lost I did lose my faith for a minute. I call it a minute, it's just an expression. But I remember going to the Star of the Sea parish, and Father Morgan, he's dead now, old Father Morgan, and I went in there and I wanted to, I shouldn't say murder him, but I was really mad. He said, what the, God took Dominic, now Vincent, what gives? And I thought he was going to have some profound things to say, and he says, Chuckie, let's say a prayer, because I remember being back behind the rector, I think it's called in the church behind the thing there, and it was after Saturday after Mass, and but he just said, it's a lot of the stuff is in God's hands. So how you handle it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't have any real quality advice other than try to think about positive things and do good things and be good to yourself and others every day, and it'll get you through.
Go for it. I was just gonna say, it seems like losing your boys has given you this whole different direction of life, though, because you did run the factory for so long.
Yeah.
And now I've heard about you for so many years before I met you, and so many women and sober houses that I work with and stuff. People always talk about Chuckie's fight, and I've had the opportunity to work with Jesse and I. We are on a panel of people that go into schools and speak, and we work with a mom who recently lost her son, and I don't know. I work with a lot of parents who have lost their children, but they have found ways to turn that pain into helping other
passion.
people.
Good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So Chuckie dips in the ocean
Yeah.
every day of the year.
Twice a day. Yeah.
I did
Twice
it-
a day, even on the freezing days?
Yeah.
I did it
yeah,
once with you,
yeah,
and it was negative degrees out, and
was
literally,
it? Yeah.
and I literally took my breath away, and I couldn't walk out of the water.
How'd we get out? They drag you out?
No, I walked out
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah.
But
Have you had to drag people out?
I couldn't breathe. There was a whole bunch of us, and I think the only thing that kept me walking to the shore was fear of judgment and my pride and ego.
Well, there you go.
Because everybody else was walking.
Yeah.
I literally, by the time I got to my blanket, they were like, "Are you okay?" I was like,
Yeah.
I always go watch when he does Freezing for a Reason and support him, but I would never go in the water.
You've never done it?
No, I can't.
It's
so.
We're gonna get you. We're gonna
So
get you.
we're going in. So Chuckie got designated as a recovery-friendly workplace. So one of the things that we do is we present the workplaces with certificates. So I was talking to my manager and I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if when we gave Chuckie his certificate, we go do a dip with him?"
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking she was going to be like, "You're out of your mind. We're not doing that." And she's like, "It's a great idea." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Damn it."
you're gonna have to do it soon because it's getting warmer.
We're
Yeah,
doing it on
yeah.
March 31st.
Okay.
It's going to
Water's
be
still cold,
It's going
yeah.
to be brutal.
Yeah. It takes a long time for the water to catch up to the air temperature, and vice versa.
Yeah, the water was more it was more comforting to be in the water.
Yeah,
I thought because
yeah.
the air was so cold.
Yeah.
Not this past New Year's, but last year, it was so cold. I couldn't even be outside in my jacket without wanting to freeze to death, literally. And they all went in the ocean. And I was like, this is a health problem. There needs to be ambulances
someone
on
needs to
standby.
put a stop to
this
this.
is not right that they're doing this. And 60 people or something ran into the ocean. And I was like, oh my God.
That was a cold one. Yeah.
It was so cold.
Yeah. Sometimes it's if it's below, the wind chill is
negative
below 10.
17 or
Yeah, below
something.
10, below 0. The salt water will freeze to you, and that's when you know it's cold. It usually happens like a half a dozen times.
So I recently heard it's really, really good for your health.
Yeah.
Is that why you do it?
No, I do it
You do
because
your boys are in
my
the
son's ashes are in the ocean, and I bless myself every morning and go down there and say a prayer about, if I'm going to a school, that I make a difference at that school, or, pray for someone that might be struggling. And then usually in the afternoon, I actually went in again before I came here. I get a little bit cranky in the afternoon, so I go in and that's
I feel like that would make me a hell of a lot more.
Me
I gotta
too.
tell you that
no.
one day we jumped in the ocean in the morning. I was toast. I couldn't do anything after that.
Really?
I was
No
so
kidding.
exhausted.
Well, and I was like scheduling the event. I was like, Chuckie, the only time we can do it is at 4:30 because like I'm leaving right away and driving straight to my shower and like crawling in my bed after.
I was
you know?
exhausted. I couldn't do
Really?
anything
Yeah.
after. Yeah, like it taken every ounce of energy in life I had to do that.
So I guess it makes your body do something and it gets all the toxins
That's
out
right,
of you.
Yeah. I've been hearing a lot about that. It's got a lot of health benefits for your immune system and stuff like
I can't
that.
believe you do it twice a
Some
day.
guy did it and they like injected him with like a bunch of like diseases like Ebola and something, and he fought it all off.
Really? Yeah.
I don't know. Someone was just telling me this the other day.
That sounds so insane.
I was like,
dangerous.
yeah, just put some, in me. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I can't even start with like a.
That might be an
common
exaggeration,
flu
but
virus.
It's good for your.
It's impressive. I can't believe you do it twice a day.
Yeah,
it was
I didn't miss any.
exhausting.
I didn't miss any days this winter. Every single day, I haven't missed a day in years. And
Isn't that partly how you raise money? People donate
yeah,
for you going in?
if it's extremely cold, people say that guy's nuts, and they'll still send $50, $100 to the website. And then, like I said, we use the money to put people into treatment, and we do have the one, Freezing for a Reason is a big one. We raise a few $1,000s there, and
He just donated $10,000 to SOS so we could buy a van so we can transport people.
That's awesome.
yeah, well, it's for a good thing. So I'm honored to be able to do
So,
it.
so do you fight as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't fight professionally. My son Charles does, and my son Lucas, one of my younger sons, is down in Florida training to try to get into the UFC as well. I teach some self-defense to some people some local people. I have a small gym in my house with mats and everything, and if they want to continue, I send them to places that I have connections with that have a scheduled program, because I can't give them what they need. I've trained and I've sparred with some, professional, heavyweights, some tough customers, and I can hold my own. But I wanted to be a fighter, but I didn't have them, but I had children when I was 20. I was a single parent, like when I was 21 or 22 with two. Vincent was 6 months and Dominic was like a year and a half. So I'm not blaming any of it. Who knows what would have happened, but I do Bikram yoga every,
He does hot yoga?
do the hot yoga and
Chuckie, you're the man, Chuckie.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you
No,
are. You
I'm
do
not,
it all.
No, I'm not that. I've never gotten that much better. But I think the point of the hot yoga is I got someone kind of challenged me to do that probably 10, 12 years ago, and I really, you talk about feeling out of place. And the reason I'm bringing this up on the show is that about stepping out of your comfort zone, because I went in the room and I see a bunch of, 90% of them are beautiful, girls in black spandex tights, and a goon like me walks in there. I'm like, oh, do I feel out of place? But it's been really good for me. You have to stay present. I've gotten more flexible. It's good for your breathing. You have to pay attention to the, what they're saying, the 26 postures and
mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's been good, and just the messages to step out of your comfort zone. And
hot yoga for me was a game changer, and
Good.
I realized that it taught me that I can do hard things, and if I can get through that yoga class
Good.
and not die, that I am capable of doing hard things.
Okay, is hot yoga more challenging than regular yoga?
Hot yoga is like hell on earth.
Because I find regular yoga challenging.
It's like 95 to 100 degrees in the
100%
room.
agree.
Oh my god.
But you get addicted to the heat. Like you get addicted to it and you get used to it, and then you don't sweat as much. And it's really it's good for someone that's in early recovery and that's trying to detox and get all the
Right.
toxins out.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what she says sometimes. It's about trying to get comfortable, being uncomfortable, and that's like, back to, it's not about me, but whether my girlfriend says, oh, I look at her in the morning and she'll say, oh, she knows I want to know the weather, and she'll say, oh, it's 6 degrees, the wind chill's -10 or something. I'm like, oh, but you know what? It's something that I know I can do, and I make myself do it, and it makes me feel better. And the same thing with Bikram yoga. It's to me, it's nothing.
It's safe.
It's not
How do you know?
safe.
How do you know it's safe to go in the water when it's that cold? Like, how do you know you're coming out?
It's honestly, it's easy for
Don't
me
your
right now.
feet like freeze?
No,
like,
not at all.
How do you like?
I'm fat. no, I'm used to it though too. It definitely makes a difference. You acclimate to it 100%.
I'm gonna get some water shoes.
Yeah.
Jess is gonna be like in a full diver suit.
Yeah.
I need to get like a wetsuit or something.
Yeah.
It's gonna be bad.
No, you'll be fine.
I'm dreading
and
it.
honestly, when you said that you didn't feel that good, most people, I tell them, they're going to get the hungry horrors because your body's trying to get the heat and the energy back that it lost. But it was probably so cold that day in your defense that it depleted your. I mean, it can just drain you.
I was like empty.
Yeah, it can sap your strength. It's the same thing as Bikram yoga, but the other way around. The heat can sap your strength, and the extreme cold, it can sap your strength. But like I said, I'm used to it, and
It was like the middle of winter.
I remember.
It was so cold. Yeah.
Chuckie, is there anything that you want to leave?
And also, I just want to say, if anyone wants to get a hold of you, your information's up on the prompter, so people can get a hold of you.
anything I want to say is that, just that recovery is possible. It's all about choices and making good choices. And one of my favorite quotes, I like quotes, I think it's by Gandhi. It says, if you feel lost, find yourself in the service of others. There's always something nice to do for somebody every day. There's a lot of opportunities to, God gives us all something. Volunteer somewhere, say something nice to somebody. If somebody does something wrong in traffic, instead of giving them the middle finger, when that's probably what they're expecting, smile and wave at them, because it's really not that big of a deal. So that's what I got to say is be good to yourself, be good to others, and always remember to be grateful, because we're pretty lucky, and make it a great rest of your week, and God bless all of you.
Thanks, Chuckie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in tonight. Like Chuckie said, there is hope. So if you're struggling, reach out, and recovery is possible. Have a good night.
Amen. All right.